welcome back to the Between the Lines podcast. I'm your host, Shania Trotter, and this week we're going to discuss the fatherhood and masculinity in Vinland Saga. So, first things first, I do want to say I truly did love this anime, and I'm probably going to read the manga just because it's that good, and I do want to dissect it even more. I know on the outside it just seems like it's a lot of gore and fighting and about who's more of a man, but really it is about men, navigating manhood and what that is to them, what definition are they giving manhood and masculinity, but also about the loss of innocence and what they deem as like the rites of passage to manhood, and also them just trying to figure out what is it like, what does being a man mean, what does being a father mean, how do you be a good father, how do you become a man? How do you be a man? How do you be the best man, the best warrior? What is a warrior? You get what I'm trying to say? And how can I get to Valhalla? So, Valhalla for them is like heaven. So, how can I get to heaven? Just imagine, on the outside, it looks like, oh my gosh, they're just doing all this terrible, evil stuff. But imagine if, you have these group of men, and this is hundreds and thousands of men who believe that doing these things and killing these people and enjoying it meant that they would get to heaven. That's deep. That's deep because I'm telling y'all, this is why I love media analysis, because you can always, always, always pull from what you are reading and watching and literally translate it to what's happening in the world today. People do all types of crazy stuff, okay? Dehumanizing things in the name of their religion, right? So I know, like, when I was watching, I was like, wow, this is crazy because they're doing all this crazy ass shit and they think that they're going to get to their heaven for it. And so this is why, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about season 2. This is why in season 2, when you see all these men who was doing all this crazy shit, killing all these people in the name of Valhalla in hell, like, I was like, damn, that is crazy. That is actually insane. But I mean, it makes sense. But shit, y'all were sold a fucking lie. Like, that's fucked up, actually. And this is why when I talk about like hegemonic masculinity, where, you're perpetuating these beliefs that hurt you, right? It's like, damn, but you're socialized to be that way. Like, that you were taught to do this. You were taught that you have to do this and you have to enjoy it and you have to be the best at it to get to Valhalla. That's the only way. Not being a good father, not taking care of your kids, not being good to your wife, but killing people and slashing them and enjoying it and doing it the most. Like, how, like, the more people you kill, the better. That's how being a good. That's what being a good warrior is. What? But I can't. Like, again, if that's what they were taught, that's all they know. And if all the men around them truly believe it and that's who they're following, I mean, who are you to tell them otherwise? And this is why moving to this is why Thor's changing everything he knew and changing what a warrior meant to him was so deep, because at one point he was considered the best warrior there was, right? He was feared, he was respected, and for him to be the one to turn the tide meant a lot. I just hate the fact that he was taken out before, you know, his principles and his new philosophy really got to stick, because damn, that could have really went a long way. Because hey, we live in a patriarchal society, right? So we understand that at the end of the day, at its core, men, they respect what other men think, or what other men say, what they think, how they feel. At the end of the day, that's what matters to men. And I'm going to say most men, not every last man. Some men don't care. Some men don't care. But usually they care what other men think. This is why I be saying, like, if more men shamed other men for doing weird ass, evil ass, fuck ass shit, they probably wouldn't be doing it. But it's because they feel so damn comfortable because not enough men, okay, especially the men around them, are holding them accountable. And this is why I say some men, because not all. Because I know there's some good men out there. That's one thing. I don't hate men. You can always tell when somebody hates men. And I'm just like, y'all do know that men aren't just born like that, right? Like, y'all do know they're socialized, and, like, it's a lot that goes into making men like that. Like, they don't just come out the womb evil or crazy or fucked up. But you can always tell when someone's talking that they hate men. Just like how, like a woman, you can always tell when a woman hates men by the way they talk. You can always tell when a man, when they talk, when they hate women. And I'm just like, okay, I can't listen to you too much because you hate women. It don't matter what comes out your mouth, you hate women. Like, like it's not gonna be productive. But anyway, it's like, so with Thor's being the one to be like, okay, you don't need a sword to be a great warrior. Everybody's like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? But you know what? I'm a actually, hold some space for what you guys to say, because you are, like, you are feared, you are respected. I respect you as a man, let alone a warrior. So Thor's, especially for his time, he was what shaped what masculinity was for a lot of men, if not most men. And so for him to try to single-handedly change what that meant and the definition of it, he was trying to change it to where it's just like, okay, instead of killing, I don't need to kill anybody to be a great warrior. Instead, I'm going to be a good father. Instead, I'm going to be a provider. Like, instead, I'm going to be a protector. And that is what makes me a warrior, and that's what's going to get me to Vinland. Even the fact that he now has Vinland as somewhere where he wants to achieve to go to instead of Valhalla. Like, that's crazy. It was unheard of. And I do feel that if he wasn't taken out so quick, it would have sunk in faster. Well, it just would have sunk in over time, because he would have been able to, I could see him like holding classes for the young boys at his like at his village, and talking about these things and trying to just change the way things were. Because with him going out the way he went out, and how it happened so damn fast, I was like, damn, you didn't really get to teach nobody. Now they're, people like later on, like Canute is going to be able to like learn through how Thorfinn moves. But even so, I don't know. Me personally, I'm just gonna say this. Me personally, I know Thor's and Thorfinn, they're like, you know what? I don't want to fight nobody. I don't want to do that. Sometimes you gotta beat a little ass, just a little bit, because when I think about a protector, I think about, hey, if I got to fight a little bit to protect who I love, then I'm gonna do that. But I'm not gonna go out my way to be just trying to kill people and do this, that, and the third. But if I gotta protect mine, you feel me? Because this is my thing. Even when Thor's did die, they could have just fell back on their word and killed everybody. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, if you do allow yourself to get killed instead of killing someone else, you are opening the door for everybody who you're supposed to protect to get killed too. I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna say it. But I do appreciate even the creator of Vinland Saga for trying to throw in, okay, we gotta get started somewhere though. Like, the conversation needs to be had of like, okay, if we're trying to change up what like being a warrior is and what masculinity is, and if we're trying to not kill, then this is the first step. Sometimes this is the first step. You got to think about it. Any idea or anything that we do today was not originally what it is today. You know what I'm trying to say? At some point, it was something different. Even the phone that is in my hand right now, at some point, it was not an iPhone. You trying to see what I'm trying to say? It like the what is it called? The prototype, whatever the case is. The very first idea of it, it did not look like what it looks like right now. Right? This high functioning machine was not what that was at first. So even same thing with these concepts of like what being a man is, or any system that you see working really well, right? It did not start off that way. Somebody had to start the conversation. Somebody had to do a lot of trial and error. And it probably was like that for years and generations until it shaped itself, and people tweak things and they change things to see what worked best. And things are ever changing, right? So I do appreciate Thor's for starting the conversation. I do appreciate him for, you got to be grateful for at least somebody laying their life on the line to be able to even just show people a different way. There is a different way. You may not like that way, and I will say this way may end up getting your ass killed, but it is still an option. Is it the best option? Hey, that's subjective, right? But it's still an option. And just like Thorfinn at the end of season 2 being like, okay, well, Canute, if you keep on coming after me, I'm just run. I'm gonna just run. I'm not gonna fight you. I'm just gonna run. I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna keep moving away from you, far, far, far away. And Canute's just like, I mean, I guess that is a way, I guess, to avoid fighting. Like avoiding battle was just never really heard of before. So even with Canute hearing that, he's just like, I mean, I guess that's one way to go about it. I mean, okay. But like I said, it's a start. Is that always going to be sustainable? I don't think so. But especially when it comes to trying to protect the ones you love, at some point, I feel like if you're truly going to try to protect the ones that you love, because it's different when it's just you, right? You could just run, you just, I don't know. At some point, I still think if it's between life or death, you may still need to, throw them dukes up. But if it comes down to you got little children, you got women that probably can't fend for themselves, all that kind of stuff, you're going to have to at some point put them dukes up. But like I said, it's a starting spot. It's not a finished product. Because remember, Thorfinn, he didn't want to add any more bodies to the list. Like he was just like, I don't want to do anything else, bro. Like dead ass, I'm not trying to kill nobody else. So that is a starting spot. That may not be his ending spot, and this is why I might need to read the manga because I need to see what he does in season 3. But when watching this, I was like, oh, I really hope these men who are watching can see that based off of how you view masculinity and how you operate as a man is going to affect how you are as a father, as a partner, as a leader, just in general. Because Thor's wasn't always like how he was, in the beginning of, the first couple of episodes. He wasn't all that either as a father. Look how he's holding the damn baby, his first child. But which is like he wasn't even trying to name her at first. He was just like, oh, name her whatever. And the wife was like, no, you better name this motherfucking baby. I ain't push this baby out just so you can just be like, oh, I got to go. The hell? And rightfully so, because Thor's who the fuck you feeling like? But it's funny because his first daughter being born was what he said made him be like, you know what? I can't be doing this no more. I can't be putting my life on the line every day and, risking my life and also killing all these people. Like, I have to be here for her. And I know that was a little confusing for Thorfinn because growing up hearing that his dad was like such a, amazing warrior, like he's the warrior, right? And growing up understanding what a warrior is at the time, like with all the killing, how many people can you kill, how many soldiers can you kill, this, that, and the third, all that kind of stuff. But then growing up and seeing instead of taking life, his dad's saving life, right? When that enslaved man, they found that enslaved man and he's trying to resuscitate him and bring him back to life. I don't think he was fully dead at the time. Like he was kind of like frozen. They found him under the snow, but like again, doing like CPR, trying to bring him back to life instead of taking life. And these are all the stories that Thorfinn heard about his father. So I know that was a little bit confusing, especially like when Thorfinn picked up his dad's knife, and the dad was just like, again, like you do not need a knife to be a great warrior. And again, just kind of confusing for him because he's just like, I'm trying to be like my dad. I want to be a warrior like my dad. He's being really rough with the other kids, a little too damn rough. Because one thing about it, and now this is different because we not living like Vikings and shit. But like one thing about it, if y'all out playing, okay, and y'all supposed to be playing, and my kids coming back with broken bones, I'm be pissed. You supposed to be fucking playing, okay? But you doing a little bit too much. But again, I get it. They're teaching you to be rough so early. You're being socialized to be killers, to be serial killers at that. Like they're literally being socialized to be weapons at such an early age. You're not even really being allowed to be children, just to be children for the hell of it. And we really see this in season 2 as well. Like we see Thor's, he's created this, community. He's building things, he's protecting people. And so at such a young age, what was Thorfinn, like 5? That's what he's seeing his father do, yes, but he's hearing all these different things. He's still trying to chase who his father was in his, I'll say, quote unquote, prime. But it's like he's not really learning any other skills other than being a weapon. And we see this get even more sharpened, right? Him being a weapon in those next 11 years with Askeladd. And then in season 2, we see somebody else. What was his name? I think his name was Einar. And basically, he did not grow up being a soldier. And so he knows how to plant and, grow crops and build things and actually produce things. Meanwhile, Thorfinn only knows how to, like, take life. He was not, and follow orders, but, like, he was not taught to do these things. And it's sad because, again, if Thor's was alive longer, I know he would have been taught. But I'm just like, damn, that is just so sad. Again, when this is what happens when men are socialized just to be weapons, and that's what they're taught being a man is. Okay, you take away the fighting, you take away, the competition, you take away the weapons, you take away the battlefield. What is left? An empty vessel. That's all. That's all. And this is why I say hegemonic masculinity, and also even just the patriarchy. It's something that chews you up and spits you out, and men are not exempt. Men are suffering under this patriarchy as well, because that's something that we see all throughout this anime is the loss of innocence and all these rites of passage to manhood. One of the passages of manhood or to manhood in this show is to kill someone. That's what they say. They say to become a man, you need to kill someone. You need to kill your first person. And we see this with Thorfinn when he, kills his first person. He's just 5 years old. And you see the look in his eyes. He's never going to be the same after that. And he never was. But again, these rules, right, with masculinity, hegemonic masculinity under this patriarchy, right, they hurt these men as well. Whether they understand that or not. They're stripping you of your humanity every time. And masculinity, it's weird because it's something that men are always forced to continuously prove, right? It's like, for example, if you look, usually, not all the time, right? If you don't fit the ideal look of what a woman is, right? But I'll say usually with women, you can, people look at women, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, you're a woman. But I have also seen they're like, well, you're not a true woman unless you had kids. You're not a true woman unless you got married. You're not a true woman unless you gave birth and you did it natural, no epidural. You're not a. So we see that with women too. But I'll say, be under this patriarchy, we do see it, hit a little bit more with men, where it's like they have to continuously prove how masculine they are. It's not like it's just a one-time thing. They're like, okay, now I'm over here in this environment with these different men. Now I got to prove it again. Okay, now I'm over here and they're talking about this. Now I got to prove it again. I got to keep proving how masculine I am. I got to keep proving that I'm a man, right? So it's never like a one and done. It's a ever-changing thing. It's not like you could just be a man just for having, having it assigned at birth. It's like you can't just be a man just because you're a male. There's different things that make you a man, quote unquote, right? And one of those things is, in this show, killing someone. And then like I said, you have to keep on proving yourself. How many people can you kill? How brutal was it? How much did you enjoy it? How did you act after the kill? Did you cry like a little baby, or did you laugh and you smiled and you're having fun with it, right? Like, all of these things get taken into account of how they are rating you as a man. And that has to be exhausting. It has to be. And it's dehumanizing. That's another thing. So again, with the theme of masculinity in this show, it's like, again, we are seeing these men being stripped of their humanity, and then being put on a pedestal and being called, oh, war heroes, and oh, these are men right here. And it's absolutely insane. And it's such a sad story, like watching Thorfinn lose his father and then swearing that he's going to kill Askeladd. Like, we really see the light leave his eyes, and he's just never ever the same after seeing his father go out like that. And it sucks because this is not the path that his father would have wanted him to take. And this is why I said, honestly, I just wish he didn't get on that damn boat, honey. He wasn't supposed to be on that damn boat, but kids don't motherfucking listen. That's the thing. Kids will be kids and they don't listen, bro. And he just wanted to be like his dad so bad. Like, damn. He shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have saw his dad go out like that. But the fact that he did, all the lessons that Thor was trying to teach him went out the motherfucking window. Why? Because he was only 5. And he was trying to be more like his dad. And he knows more of the stories of his dad than what he really remembers his dad being like. Because again, you're only 5. He probably don't remember how his dad was when he was 2 years old and all that kind of stuff. His dad was already, he already turned in that sword, okay? So he only knows the famous stories of his father, and he just wants to be remembered just like him, and look and respected like him. He wants to walk in his footsteps. He wasn't grown enough to really let those principles that Thor was talking about really sink in. So what did he do? He goes off of revenge, and he lets that fester, and that's how he lives his life off of that animosity, that revenge, that vengeance. And that ultimately is his downfall. So now fast forward and he's following Askeladd, and the only thing really binding him to Askeladd is this promise that he's going to eventually kill him to avenge his father, and you know that's what that is. But really, it's because, let's be real, he climbed on that damn boat, on Askeladd's boat, when he was 5 years old, and so he's far removed from his home. So there is no going back. He doesn't know where to go. He's been with him since he was been 5 years old, and it's been what, 11 years now. Where else are you going to go? And at 5 years old, he wasn't able to kill him. At 6 years old, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get what I'm trying to say? So all these years are going by. Askeladd is out of his reach. Like, he'll amuse himself with giving him a battle, but he knows he's not going to beat him. And I think, and ultimately, what we end up seeing, even later on in the season, is that there's some Stockholm syndrome here with Thorfinn and Askeladd, right? There's some Stockholm syndrome on Thorfinn's part, because Askeladd becomes like a father figure. Let's be real. He's known Askeladd more, or I'll say longer, than his actual father. Because Thor's died when he was 5. It's been 11 years. And although he has this hatred and animosity toward Askeladd, he's the only father figure he knows. And although Askeladd isn't necessarily kind and loving, that's kind of the base. Not for every single last father during this time, and who are Vikings, but like, that's kind of what it is. Because look at who Askeladd is. Again, he's considered a warrior, right? These are serial killers, y'all. But they're not considered serial killers because that's what a man was viewed as. That was their definition of of a true warrior, of a man, of what true masculinity is, what manhood is. Like I said earlier, one of the rites to passage to being a man was considered to kill somebody. So if that's your rites of passage just to get through the door, imagine what it takes to be considered the man. That's what I'm saying. And like I said, this show does a good job at showing when you are operating like the man, and you are operating in the system where it's a system of perpetuating violence and aggression, right? That translates into your family life. Hello. You don't just leave that shit on the battlefield and then you go home and you be a loving father, and you're a loving husband, and you're just so gentle and kind. No. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm just saying, in this show, they're showing, oh yeah, no, usually when you get somebody who's on the battlefield and they real rough around them damn edges, they the same way at home. They're the same way with other people. Especially when they think that being that way is gonna get them to heaven. Hello. So again, how Askeladd was treating Thorfinn, he kind of was treating him like a son. He's letting him stay around, right? He's even teaching him in these battles against him, teaching him, you need to control your emotions. You ain't never gonna beat me if you keep on losing, flying off the handle. And we really got to see that in his fight against Thorkell's crazy ass. Thorkell is crazy as hell. But he's the perfect example of like what men are being socialized to be. Like, the fact that he enjoys the killing so much, he craves it. Again, thinking that is what's going to get him to Valhalla. This is what I'm saying. It's so sinister because with these teachings, it's socializing men and young boys not to only be serial killers, not to only kill people in cold blood, but to enjoy it. You're supposed to enjoy being a warrior. You're supposed to love this stuff. Eat, breathe, sleep this stuff. Kill people and take their lives with a smile. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter who it is. 'Cause I'm not going to lie to you. The scene where Askeladd and his dudes go into that village and just kill all those people in cold blood and just take they houses and stuff and take their food and all that and just kill them all. Nobody was exempt. Not kids, not nothing. Babies, nobody. They just took everybody. I was just like, damn, this is crazy. Like, this is crazy. These are not warriors. You are not on a battlefield. It doesn't matter though. But again, you're still being taught that type of behavior and those type of actions is what's going to get you to heaven. So you feel justified. What that sound like? This is what I'm saying. People be talking about, oh, it's just a show. Oh, it's just a movie. It's just, no. We be seeing this stuff in real life, honey. There's always these messages. Gotta read between the lines, child. Okay? Anything can be done if it has a justification. Shoot. I always say, you always gonna hear me be like, look at slavery. Anything can be done if it has a justification. Right? Does that make it right? Absolutely fucking not. But can you see the kind of crazy shit that can happen and that people will do as long as they could justify it? But anyway, we see how, Askeladd can guide and teach Thorfinn, even if, again, he's not the softest, right? He's not gentle, but he still takes on that role as like a father figure for Thorfinn. He's all he knows in that sense. And just like how he was chasing after Thor's and chasing after, trying to be like him, trying to, eventually fit in his shoes, he's always chasing after Askeladd, even if that just means trying to get better so that he can take his life. But I do feel like there was some comfort there. And like, when it comes to this Stockholm syndrome, because he knew that Askeladd was always so good at fighting and that he was just quicker than him or smarter than him or whatever the case is, I feel like he knew that Askeladd was always a little bit out of reach, so that he knew, I possibly may never kill this man until maybe when he gets really, 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 really old. And so that means that he's going to be around for a long time. So I feel like that provided a level of comfortability of like, I do want to take this man out, but at the same time, I know he's going to be around. So now you're developing this bond with your captor or with the person that you're supposed to hate or who's supposed to be your enemy, right? And we really see that Stockholm syndrome at the end when Askeladd dies, and he's dying at the time, and we're seeing Thorfinn's reaction, like the fact that Thorfinn didn't even let Askeladd hit the ground before he ran and grabbed him. He caught him before he could even hit the ground. And he's saying, like, this is not supposed to go like this. I'm supposed to be the one to take you out. And I think that's another thing, too. If Thorfinn knew that Askeladd was such a, good warrior when it came to, his smarts, his battle skills, he knew that, okay, I don't think he's going to allow himself to get killed. So, therefore, I'm the one that's going to kill him. And, therefore, I have the control, if that makes sense. Like, the control's in my hands. I'm going to take him out when I get better. Because mind you, he's only, 16 at the time. So he's like, I'm not even in my prime for real. Like, I'm not even in my 20s yet. I'm not even in my 30s. Like, and he's only going to get older. So at some point, I feel like he knew at some point the tide would turn to where Askeladd was not going to be as strong or as fast, and he was going to be able to catch his ass up. But it wasn't going to be anytime soon. So the fact that somebody else did it, it took that control out of his hands. And now it feels like the carpet is being pulled up from under him. He feels like a train without the tracks now. And he don't know what the hell he finna do, because, again, this is another father figure being taken from him prematurely in his head. Because he's been so set on being the one to take Askeladd out, he was not planning anything else for his life. This is why I was saying, like, what would have happened if, you would have taken him out a year from later, a year before this, 2, 3, 4 years before this? I don't think you would have felt satisfied. Regardless, Thorfinn, you wouldn't have felt satisfied because you still have this strong, deep void from your father dying. And so you kind of filled it in with your hatred and your revenge on Askeladd, which you kind of allowed to be there for so long, and that kind of made you just be on autopilot, be like, okay, this is how I'm going to live my life. Now that he's gone, you have nothing. And I think that's even scarier. He's feeling the loss of another father figure, right? But also the loss of his purpose. What is he now? Literally, Thorfinn was literally like just walking vengeance, walking hatred for a long time. He was empty for a long time. And that's what he filled himself with. But now that Askeladd's gone, he literally has no purpose. He will just be wandering now. And that's what Askeladd said. Like, he was like, what are you going to do now? Like, he was trying to tell him at some point, you're going to have to figure out something else to do other than try to kill me. Because then what? Like, even in the anime when you're looking, look at his face. Look at Thorfinn's face. One side of his face looks heartbroken. Literally, if you put your finger over one side of his face, when he's looking down to Askeladd and grabbing him and being like, no, you can't die. Like, one part of his face looks like he's about to cry, and the other side of his face, he looks angry as hell. And this stuff is all intentional, especially when it comes to animation. They do this stuff on purpose. It takes money to animate stuff. So I feel like they really did want to show like how he felt. Like, yes, he had hatred and animosity toward Askeladd. But then there's another side of him that looks at him as a father figure. And so in this moment, he is angry because it's just like, no, I was supposed to be the one to take you out. Like, what the hell? And then the other side is like, where the fuck are you going? Who am I without you? Like, what? What's going on? Don't leave me. Right? He's grabbing onto him just like how he grabbed onto his father when he was dead. It's different. Askeladd's on the ground. But even when he was younger, he was on his knees grabbing his father's like outfit, right? And so it's different. He's on his knees grabbing Askeladd's outfit while he's laying down, but still, it's the same type of hurt of like, oh my god, like someone's taken this person from me and this is happening again. Like, even the fact that immediately, like when Canute was like, you know what, I know you probably don't want to work under me anymore because of what just happened. And he didn't say anything. He just immediately sliced his face. And if you look closely at that scene, you can see like there's not really an expression on Thorfinn's face. It's like he did it like a knee-jerk reaction. Like, it wasn't like he was even looking angry. Like, he just did it immediately. Like, oh yeah, like that's what I'm supposed to do. Just like similar, like when he was younger, and he was just like, oh no, I'm supposed to get vengeance for my father. I'm going to go ahead and get on this damn boat with the fucking enemy, not let anybody know, because that's what I'm just supposed to do. And he had so much conviction even as a child, right? So even in this moment, being like, oh no, like, yeah, you just killed like someone who I looked at as like a dad. Yeah, I'm going to slice you up. The fuck? And that again really shows how he felt about Askeladd, because again, if you really hated this person, yeah, even if you would have been mad that somebody killed them before you wouldn't be doing all this. Like, not to this extent, no. And the fact that Canute was like, no, it's okay, this scar is payment for what I took. Because Canute understands what he just took from Thorfinn. Even if Thorfinn didn't voice it, Canute knew. Because why? Askeladd killed somebody who was his father figure. Y'all remember Ragnar? That was like his dad. Ragnar was more of a damn dad than the actual king. Let's be real, the king wasn't shit. Like, the king over here sending the Canute away to get assassinated. Meanwhile, Ragnar's over here advocating for him, protecting him, like being a damn dad. But again, I feel like this was trying to show that people could be looked at as father figures and not be considered like actual blood. And again, we do see this with Askeladd and Thorfinn. We see this with Ragnar. And they could be better fathers than your actual damn father. So also showing that what is fatherhood really? Is it just the fact that you're blood related and that is your seed and that's your child that, that you impregnated somebody with and came out with your blood? Or is it somebody who you're actually a father to? You know what I mean? Like, what is fatherhood really? Because we see that today, right? Some people just think fatherhood is just, getting a whole bunch of women pregnant or getting the same woman pregnant multiple times. But they know where to be found, right? When it comes to actually being a father, an active father. So again, what is fatherhood? And we're seeing the differences, right? Is it just being present? Is it just having the title? Or is it actually being in this person's life, knowing their wants, their needs, their desires, knowing what they like, their hobbies, right? Because Ragnar knew, advocating for them, making sure that they're safe, protecting them. Because if that's the case, if that's what we're looking at fatherhood as being, yeah, the king wasn't shit. In fact, he was the exact opposite of all of those things. And so when Ragnar was taken from him, right? It's like he understood, like, damn, like, this feels like losing a dad. Like, what the hell? And so in that moment, taking away Askeladd from Thorfinn in that way, he understood. It's like, look, I know what you're feeling. But it's interesting because, again, we see someone who is considered a good father isn't necessarily considered the best war hero or a really good warrior, someone who's good at killing and all that kind of stuff, or who enjoys killing. Because same thing with Thor's. When he changed up, his life and, he has a son, just because he didn't kill didn't mean that he wasn't good at it. He was just choosing not to. But what do you think that the creator of the show is trying to say when it comes to the people who in the communities that are actually good father figures are choosing, right? Either they're not really in the field like that when it comes to fighting, or they're choosing not to do that, and showing how that affects them as fathers. If anything, it makes them better fathers, better family men, compared to everybody else who are considered great war heroes, great warriors, right? Apex killers. They're usually terrible as fathers. We see that with Askeladd's father, right? Askeladd's father was a piece of shit. I mean, he was considered a great war hero, right? Again, apex killer, right? But as a family man, absolutely not. He is not a family man, right? Again, but he gets all the praise from everybody for being great at killing and liking it, right? So who cares that I get, this woman pregnant and then I just push them to the side and act like she doesn't exist. And I don't even talk to my son. Like, I don't even know of my son. Like, who cares, right? Look, I got this person's head in my hand. Who cares? But again, this type of behavior, it's breeding, hatred and animosity, to where we saw Askeladd ended up again like befriending him, being smart, befriending him. And I'll say smart in the sense of like being like cunning, right? Being sneaky, having his plan of like, okay, cool, I'm gonna befriend him, I'm gonna learn everything I need to know, I'm gonna get better at fighting, and I'm gonna take his ass out. And that's exactly what he did. But again, look at how, I mean, he didn't really raise him. He didn't show kindness to him. The only time that he really, made use of him was because he was like, okay, I can use you as a tool. I can sharpen you just like a weapon. It wasn't because he actually cared about him or anything like that. So no. And it was crazy that he had this similar dynamic with Thorfinn, right? Like, okay, with Thorfinn, he took something away from Thorfinn, right? He took his father away from him. Okay, so now he has this little boy following him around, plotting to kill him. The only difference is just that he knew. He knew from the beginning that Thorfinn was trying to kill him. He knew he couldn't do nothing. But compared to with him and his father didn't really see it coming. I don't think. They didn't show that the father knew. And so it's just crazy, like history repeats itself. The only difference is that Askeladd did not get killed by Thorfinn. He got killed by, Canute. And I just want to clarify something, because I know I just said that it seemed like, when the men in the show are better fathers, they're not really in the field and they're not really fighting like that, or whatever the case is. I don't want to make any exceptions or get anything confused, because this kind of brings me on the topic of Keto, and we ain't going to even talk about him like that in this one, because he going to piss me smooth off. We going to save that for another episode. But I want to say that just because they're not really in the field like that, or they can't really fight, or they're choosing not to fight, does not mean that they are going to be a good father. I'm just making the connection or a good person, let alone a good father. I'm just making the connection that it seems like, when the person isn't really somebody who's craving even to be a warrior or be a killer or whatever the case is, that it seems like, again, we see this with Ragnar, and we see this with Thor's, in the beginning. Other than that, that's it. That's it. We also see this actually with Canute, but we'll talk about him another time, because he's not a father in the first season, at least. But anywho, yeah, I'm just mentioning Kettle because somebody might be like, well, what about Kettle? Because, he wasn't really fighting. He was opposed to all that. Kettle was a fucking coward. Okay? I feel like Kettle's worse. I'd rather have somebody like Thorkel just to let me know you a damn monster. Just let me know you a damn killing machine. Let me know what it is. Like, let me know what it is at the front door. Rather than somebody like Kettle, who comes off as like a good guy. He comes off as one of the quote-unquote good ones, right? Until you piss him off. Until he feels small. Until he feels wronged. Until he feels like he feels scorned. Oh yeah, now he gonna show his ass. And mind you, he ain't gonna show his ass to men. This is why I say he's a coward. He gonna show his ass to a woman. He's gonna kill Arnhide. The hell? Oh my god, don't piss me off. Don't even let me get on that. Let's save that for another episode, child. Oh my god. I'm sorry. That pissed me all the way off when I saw that episode. Oh, he pissed me off. Woo! Anyway. Yeah, I just wanted to make that distinction because he's a coward. I don't want nobody getting it twisted. I'm like, oh, well, Keto, he didn't really fight, and maybe, he was a good one. No, absolutely not. And yeah, I call Thorkel a monster because he is like a killing machine, bro. But again, he's not considered a monster or someone that you need to look the fuck out for because that's the normal. Like, it's just insane. His bloodlust is insane. Like, no one should be itching and scratching to kill people the way that Thorkel does. And this is what I'm saying. Like, this is what Thor's probably used to be. Maybe not as enthusiastic. I don't know. Honestly, we all we saw was him at the end of his journey, right? But I'm like, Thor's and his legacy breeds Thorkel's, if that makes sense. Like, Thorkel is looking to be like Thor's. You see what I'm trying to say? That's insane. Like, that's insane. And it truly is insane when you really think about it, to think that being like that is going to get you to heaven. But again, if you're taught that, then you're taught that and you're going to believe it. And you're going to strive to be more and more like that. I'm sure Thorkel did not come out the womb acting like this at all, acting a whole motherfucking fool. But he was taught to be this way. You can learn from your environment. And again, if you think that, okay, well, cool. If I can get into heaven being this way, I'm going to be the best that I can be. I'm going to enjoy it the most. And that kind of shit, especially being taught that in your like formative years before your brain is fully developed, oh yeah, you're changed forever. So I don't know how he gonna be as a damn father, honey. Because again, it reminds me of like, okay, even with that hard training, like that harsh training, I'm currently watching My Hero Academia. If you're watching that, you understand what I'm saying when it's like Endeavor, Endeavor and Todoroki, that type of vibe, right? Where it's like you can have children. So one way is like Thor's, where he's like, no, I have children. I cannot perpetuate this. I can't push this onto them. I don't want anything happening to them, let alone me, trying to push them to do this to other people. Compared to like people like Endeavor, where it's like Endeavor's a little different. He wanted, to be number one so bad, and so if he couldn't do it, he wanted to also have his successor do it. But it's just like, still, you gotta be tough, you gotta be hard, you gotta be strong, you gotta be the strongest, you gotta be the best, and abusing your child and putting them through all this type of abuse to do that. So there's different ways you can go about it, but it's just like, I'm glad Thor's went the way where he was like, you know what, I'm gonna just fake my death and be a family man and have my own community and build a new life for myself and my family. Meanwhile, if he didn't, he probably would have just been like Thorkel, or however he was. Even just, again, like I said at the beginning, when he had the daughter first popped out, wasn't even trying to give her a name, was trying to dip. The fuck? The fuck you feeling like? But anyway, I do hope that when men watch this show, they don't only, look at the fighting and the blood and, the competitive nature of these men. I hope that they look at, like, again, these themes of fatherhood and masculinity, and hopefully this, even just this entire show, even season 2, it gets them questioning things of like, what kind of man do I want to be? You know, again, since masculinity is something that's always needing to be proved, you have the power, you have free will to shape what you view masculinity is. You can create your own definition and live by the beat of your own drum, right? And do what really actually feeds your soul. Because that's one thing about it with masculinity and hegemonic masculinity. You are being stripped of your humanity under this patriarchy. This patriarchy is not only chewing women up and spitting them out, it's doing the same thing with men. The difference is that men can benefit from the patriarchy, not like how women can. So, but you guys do still suffer. So it's like, if you see that, because I see a lot of men online, upset about whatever they upset about. Whether it's, I'm hearing this male loneliness epidemic, I'm hearing about the high depression rates of men, all type of stuff, not making enough money. At the end of the day, it all goes back to the patriarchy. It all goes back to men. And a big one that ties into how you view yourself, maybe that a lot of that depression and all type of stuff, you not being able to express yourself, right? All your pent up emotions, suppression of your emotions, a lot of that is because men are not, quote unquote, supposed to have feelings. You're supposed to be so stoic and mysterious, and you know, you're supposed to just be like a rock and be a protector and be a fighter and a weapon and this, that, and the third. But who made that up for men to follow? Other men. This is, again, under the patriarchy. This is why I say you suffer under the patriarchy as well. And as soon as more men understand that and they start deconstructing it, deconstructing masculinity, deconstructing the patriarchy, deconstructing why you do the things that you do, and being like, you know what, this don't even make me happy anyway. In fact, this is causing my depression. Let me go ahead and deconstruct this, and let me go ahead and reconstruct it in a way that actually lets me live my fucking life and let me be a damn human being, right? Let me actually be a good father to my children. Let me be a good partner to my spouse, whoever that is, male or female. Be a good actual, good human in society, right? Let me actually be a good human being. Let me follow the beat of my own drum instead of what I've been socialized to do. Now, mind you, this is not necessarily easy to do, but you gotta start somewhere. And this is why I like even just the thought of like, okay, I'm no longer going to be a fighter. Like I said, is that sustainable in the in this world, where Vikings is, a huge thing? And probably not, but it's a start. Sometimes you got to just get the conversations going, spark the conversation, spark the idea, the philosophy, and you're going to, shape it along the way. So even that, I hope this sparks the conversations for a lot of men to be like, you know what? Yeah, I actually, I don't really like all these things that, we're kind of pushed to do just to be considered manly or masculine. I know who I am. I know I'm a man. I don't have to prove myself in these ways that are detrimental to me and the people around me. I don't have to do that. So I really hope that they, at least some men got that out of this show, because it would be such a waste to only be like, oh yeah, look at the gore, look at the blood, look at the fighting. It's so much deeper than that. And that's why I really do love this show. But that would be all for this episode. Thank y'all for joining me again on this week's episode of Between the Lines podcast. Again, I'm your host, Shania Trotter, and I will see y'all next week. Bye.